We are living through a moment in sports history that transcends the boundaries of a simple match result. Sometimes, the universe aligns in a way that feels scripted, where hard work meets destiny, and idols become peers. Today, we are talking about exactly such a moment. The world of tennis has been rocked, not just by a victory, but by a gesture that signals a changing of the guard. We are talking about the Philippines' own tennis sensation, Alexandra Eala, and a message that has traveled all the way from the clay courts of Mallorca to the hard courts of Guadalajara. Breaking news has confirmed that following her historic, earth-shattering title run at the WTA tournament in Guadalajara, Alex Eala has received a personal, direct, and highly significant commendation from none other than the king of clay himself, the 22-time Grand Slam champion, Rafael Nadal. This is not a generic press release. This is not a social media in turn typing out a hashtag. According to exclusive reports, this was a personal communication sent to the channels of the Rafael Nadal Academy, a message where the master bowed his head to the student. For years, we have watched Eala grow from a promising scholar into a junior champion. But today the narrative changes. She is no longer just a student. She is a WTA title holder. She is a Pinay tennis queen who has conquered the Asian breakthrough of 2025. And when a legend like Nadal steps forward to say, "Keep believing, you're a show of what hard work and heart can do," we have to stop and listen. This is the circle of destiny closing in. Stick with me, because we're going to tear this story apart, analyze every word, every backhand, and every layer of meaning behind this monumental exchange. This is a deep dive into how Alex Eala surprised Rafael Nadal, and how she is waking up the world to Filipino tennis excellence. Let us begin by setting the scene, because without context, a victory is just a scoreline. But this was a coronation. The venue was Guadalajara, Mexico. The stakes were high on the WTA circuit. For any tennis player, transitioning from the junior leagues to professional women's tour is the most dangerous, difficult leap in their career. It is a jungle where dreams often go to die. But Alex Eala didn't just survive the jungle. She conquered it. We need to talk about the final match itself. The input we have received paints a picture of absolute dominance. Across the net stood Panna Udvardy, the Hungarian veteran. In professional tennis, veterans are dangerous. They have experience. They know how to grind you down. They know how to dismantle young hope. But Eala was operating on a different frequency. We are told she pulverized her opponent in straight sets. Just think about that word, pulverized. That speaks to a level of aggression and tactical maturity that is rare for someone her age. This wasn't a lucky win. This was a statement. This was Eala telling the WTA, "I have arrived." But as the confetti fell in Guadalajara, and as the Philippine flag was raised, something else was happening behind the scenes, something that added a layer of mythology to this victory. Thousands of miles away in Spain, the news reached Rafael Nadal. Now, we need to pause and analyze the relationship here. To understand the weight of Nadal's message, you have to understand the history. Alex Eala isn't just a fan of Nadal. She is a product of his philosophy. Since the age of 12, she has been a scholar at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca. Imagine being 12 years old, leaving your home, your family, and your comfort zone in the Philippines to move to Spain. You are entering an environment designed to forge champions, but an environment that is also notoriously grueling. The Nadal Academy is built on the pillars of its founder: humility, suffering, discipline, and mental fortitude. For nearly a decade, Eala has breathed this air. She has trained on the courts where Rafa built his legacy. She has watched him. She has studied him. In her own words, Rafa has always been her idol. He is the template for her mental toughness. So, when she lifted that trophy in Mexico, she wasn't just lifting it for herself. She was validating the entire system that built her. Reports confirmed that just hours after the final point was won, a message arrived. It was conveyed by the Academy staff, but the voice was unmistakably Rafa's. The text was simple, yet profound. "Congratulations, Alex. You deserve it. Keep going, champion." Let's deconstruct that. Champion. He didn't call her a kid. He didn't call her a prospect. He called her a champion. In the lexicon of elite sports, That is a graduation. It is a knighting ceremony. The reports indicate that Nadal went further, praising her discipline and stating that she is an inspiration to the young athletes currently at the academy. Do you realize the magnitude of that shift? A few years ago, Eala was a young athlete looking up at the posters on the wall. Now, Nadal is telling her that she is the poster. She is the inspiration. The dynamic has inverted. The student has become the teacher's pride. We have to look at the nuance here. This isn't the first time Nadal has congratulated her. We remember the 2022 U.S. Open Juniors. When she won that, Rafa posted a congratulatory message, boasting about the rise of the Philippines on the world stage. That was a beautiful moment. But frankly, and with all due respect to junior tennis, this is different. The context of 2025 is radically different. Junior titles are promises. Professional WTA titles are guarantees. Winning a WTA title means you are beating grown women, professionals who are playing for their livelihoods, for their ranking points, for their careers. By acknowledging the specific win with such a personal touch, referencing her heart and hard work, Nadal is validating her transition. He is acknowledging that the promise has been kept. The media is calling this the circle of destiny, and it is hard to argue with that poetic framing. It represents a full revolution of the wheel. Eala went to Spain as a raw talent. She absorbed the Nadal DNA, that refusal to give up, that grit, that ability to suffer on the court and smile off it. She took that DNA, brought it to the global stage in Guadalajara, and used it to dismantle a veteran opponent. And then, the energy returned to the source, with Nadal acknowledging success. This leads us to the psychological aspect of the news. How did Alex react? In an interview, she was candid. She admitted, "It made me cry to imagine that Rafa himself congratulated me." She said, "I owe a lot of what I am today to him and to the academy." This vulnerability is key. Despite the hype, despite the media labeling her the Asian breakthrough of 2025, despite the tennis world turning its eyes to the Philippines, she remained grounded. She remained humble. That, ironically, is the most Nadal thing she could possibly do. If she had come out boasting, bragging, or acting arrogant, she might have won the title, but she would fail the philosophy. By crying, by showing gratitude, by acknowledging her mentor, she proved that she learned the most important lesson of the academy. Character comes first. Let's talk about the specific feedback Nadal gave regarding her game. The reports mention he praised her mental toughness. In tennis, you can have a great forehand, you can have a booming serve, but if your mind is fragile, you will never be a champion. Nadal is the undisputed king of mental toughness. For him to single out that specific trait in Eala is the highest form of praise possible. It suggests that he watched the match, or at least studied the key moments. He saw how she handled the pressure points. He saw how she closed out the match against Udvardy. He recognized his own reflection in her fighting spirit. We also need to discuss the broader impact on Filipino tennis. The script of history is being written before our eyes. The text mentions that she is the Pinay tennis queen and the first Filipino WTA champion ever. We cannot overstate how massive this is for the Philippines. This is a country with a rich sporting heart. We've seen it in boxing with Manny Pacquiao. We've seen it in weightlifting with Hidalgo Diaz. But tennis? Tennis has largely been an elusive frontier for the archipelago. For decades, Filipino tennis fans have had to cheer for foreign players. They have had to adopt icons from Switzerland, from the U.S., or indeed from Spain. But now they have their own. The whole Philippines is proud, the reports say, and rightly so. Eala is doing for Filipino tennis what Nadal did for Spanish tennis in the early 2000s. She is normalizing victory. She is making the extraordinary seem achievable. When Nadal says she is an inspiration to young athletes at the academy, he is also implying she is an inspiration to millions of young Filipinos. There's a kid in Manila right now picking up a racket, thinking, "Alex did it, maybe I can too." That is the ripple effect of this victory. That is the power of this moment. Furthermore, looking at the technical side of the news, we see references to her world ranking increasing. This victory in Guadalajara is a massive points haul. It opens doors. It means direct entry into bigger tournaments. It means avoiding qualifiers. It creates a snowball effect. The higher your ranking, the better your draws, the more experience you get, the better you become. Nadal knows this. His message, keep going, champion, is a directive. It's a command to not rest on her laurels. In the world of the big three of tennis, the only easy day was yesterday. You have to prove it again tomorrow. The reports also mention a specific color line change in some context, but focusing on the narrative here, let's look at the Asian breakthrough of 2025 tag. This places us in a timeline where Eala is leading the charge for the entire continent. Asian tennis has had legends, Li Na, Naomi Osaka, but Southeast Asia has been quieter. Eala is breaking that silence. She is putting the Philippines on the map in bold, red letters. I want to circle back to a phrase used in the input. The boy who once practiced in Nadal's shadow is the one who carries a new light. Well, in this case, the girl who practiced in shadow. That imagery is powerful. Shadows can be comforting, but they can also be restricting. For a long time, Eala was Nadal's student. That was her primary identifier in the international press. Alex Eala, scholar of Rafael Nadal Academy. But after Guadalajara, that identifier moves to the second line of her bio. The first line is now Alex Eala, WTA champion. She has stepped out of the shadow and is casting her own light. And the beauty of Nadal's message is that he is happy to see her leave that shadow. He isn't trying to keep her there. A true mentor wants to be surpassed. A true master delights when the student excels. The personal nature of the message, sent by staff but signed by Rafa, shows that despite his global fame, despite his injuries, despite his business interests and his own career twilight, he is paying attention. He cares. It validates the familial atmosphere of his academy. It's not just a business. It's a breeding ground for excellence. So, where do we go from here? What is the implication of this news for the rest of the season? A confident Alex Eala, backed by the explicit endorsement of Rafael Nadal, is a dangerous proposition for the rest of the tour. Confidence in tennis is tangible. You can see it in how a player walks to the baseline. You can see it in how they choose their shots. Knowing that the greatest grinder in history is in her corner, watching her scores and cheering her on, that is a performance-enhancing drug that is completely legal. It's pure adrenaline. This deep dive wouldn't be complete without acknowledging the straight-angle perspective of this journey. We are looking at a straight line from dedication to glory, the nights she spent in pursuit of points and victories. As the text says, have borne fruit. This agricultural metaphor is apartment. You plant the seeds in the dirt, you water them with sweat, and for a long time, you see nothing. It's just dirt. That was the training phase. That was the years in Mallorca away from her family. But now the harvest is here. The fruit is ripe, and the Harvest Festival took place in Guadalajara. To summarize the magnitude of what we are analyzing, we have a historic sporting achievement by a Filipino athlete. We have a passing of the torch moment from a global icon. We have a validation of a specific training methodology. And we have an emotional, human story of a young woman crying tears of joy because her hero became her cheerleader. As we look at the headlines, Alexandra Eala surprises Rafael Nadal. Perhaps the only person who shouldn't be surprised is Rafa himself. He saw the work she put in. He saw the hours. He saw the sweat. If anything, his message is less about surprise and more about recognition. He is recognizing the inevitable result of the process he helped instill in her. In conclusion of this deep analysis, this news story is a beacon. It is a beacon for every young athlete from a developing nation who thinks the world stage is too far away. It is a beacon for every coach who pours their heart into a student, hoping one day they fly. Alex Eala has flown. She has soared. And down on the ground, looking up with a smile, is Rafael Nadal. The Pine tennis queen has arrived, and long may she reign. This has been an in-depth look at a defining moment in tennis. The scores will fade. The trophies will gather dust. But the feeling of having your idol call you a champion? That lasts forever. History has been written in Guadalajara, but one gets the feeling that for Alex